Okay, so it's a new year and it is time to start buying seeds for the coming spring, summer, and fall ahead. So I want to decode some of the words, some of the euphemisms that, a lot of these seed catalogs use, as well as some technical definitions, and a bunch of just really random stuff I've learned over the years from buying just a ton of seed. I'm Gardener Koo here with Nacho and Freya, and here are 13 tips on how to make use of a seed catalog. So number one, most important, is days. Days start at the date of transplant or germination if direct sowing. If starting indoors, these days don't count. Also, days are never what they say. As Kershaw says, the days are for when you plant right before the summer solstice in Alaska with 18-hour days. Usually you want to multiply them times 1.5 to get the real days. If you see a variety in a catalog and it doesn't list the days, do not buy this unless you live in a really warm climate. It usually means like 80 plus. Number two is PM and DM resistance is a must for a lot of crops. In order to grow in a marine layer, certain plants will just totally fail unless they have powdery or downy mildew resistant, PM or DM. What happens is the leaves will get completely covered in this gray and white particles that will just completely envelop the plant in the leaves and just killing the plant if untreated. And honestly, even if you do treat it, the disease can come back. So it's really best to get plants that already have resistance bred in. These crops include basil, cucumbers, squash, sunflowers, and spinach. Three is don't grow spinach. It's a pain to harvest. Grow Swiss chard instead. Spinach is just so much more susceptible to so many diseases, and it likes to bolt if it gets even just a hint of a little too water, a little too much heat. Swiss chard is just so much faster to process, extended harvest, and it comes in much prettier colors, and also has just a similar flavor to spinach, both fresh and cooked. Number four is high in vitamin C. Sounds great, right? Well, it means one thing: sour. I love sour, it's great for me, but if you don't like sour, avoid high in vitamin C. Speaking of code words, let's talk about the phrase good for canning. If you see this on any fruit or crop, that means one thing: it tastes like cardboard. Do not get this seed. You can find something with just so much more flavor, and it'll still be really good for canning. There is, of course, an exception to the rule, and that is tomatoes. Sauce or canning tomatoes they're bred differently, so they have a lot less of that clear seed juice in the middle. So this makes them just so much better for processing and canning. And otherwise, avoid this. Number six is another code word to avoid is prolific. If the description says prolific fruit production without actually describing what the fruit tastes like, we're back to cardboard flavor. So avoid this one. It mostly pertains to fruit trees. I'm looking at you, brown turkey fig. Okay, so heirloom. Heirloom doesn't mean good flavor. Heirloom just means it's been grown for 50 to 100 years, and it is open pollinated, meaning, it's pollinated by the wind, the bees, or the hummers. So the resulting seed from this will then reproduce the parent plant. Sometimes this is great, and you can get some, amazing flavor. A lot of times you'll get a plant that will produce, just a lot, significantly less fruit, and without any of the modern disease-resistant genes bred into it. So heirloom versus modern are also, nutritionally the same. So I find heirlooms are best when I'm trying to solve a particular problem. So for me, I use heirlooms for tomatoes for my first crop of tomatoes because I can find seeds from like the Ukraine and Russia that will set fruit at significantly lower nighttime temperatures than normal. These would be black from Tula or Aziochka as an example. These are, they disease out really fast, so they're a nice first crop while I'm waiting for my modern tomatoes to, come online and to start bearing. I challenge anyone to say a sun gold tomato off the vine isn't the best cherry tomato you've ever had. And this one is an F1 hybrid, meaning it won't grow true to the seed as well. Cabbage, number 8, and broccoli can be very confusing. You'll see two kind of different groups of days when you're looking at these. It'll be like less than 100 days, and then they'll be like way over 150 days to harvest. This is just telling you when to plant it, basically. So if it's less than 100 days, you can plant this in the spring or fall or year-round like me. If it says over 150 days to harvest, this means it's fall planted only. Do not plant these in the spring. So size is another space where you can really be led wrong by the catalogs. Oftentimes with tomatoes, they are just, they're so much larger than you're led to believe. So you really do want to be careful. Other times you might just not be reading very carefully and you can be just quite surprised. Pumpkins and watermelons come in just all different size plants. So you really want to be sure to know what you're getting into before planting. So like some pumpkins get vines, they'll go out 10 feet from the center. So, and that's in all directions. So that's like 300 square feet. While other pumpkins are, semi-bush, and they'll be like a 4 by 4 foot area, and that's just 16 square feet. So you want to look up the size of the pumpkin and the definition of the size by that seed catalog so you know what you're in for. Number 10, and for the last three, we're going to be going a little more technical, but these things can really affect your yield on your crops. If you've been finding this video helpful though, please hit like and subscribe, and let's start with tomatoes. So determinate versus indeterminate. Determinate is a bush tomato, and it just means it gets to a certain size and it'll just stop growing. If you live in a warm climate, it will then just bear all of its fruit at once, basically. In a coastal climate, though, they'll bear over a very long period. But if you have heat, you really got to be ready for all of that bounty at once. Indeterminate means that the vine will keep growing and bearing until basically it's cut down by frost or disease. So tomatoes, are actually perennials. So if you wanted, you could plant one in a pot and conceivably bring it in the fall and then bring it back out in the spring again. But honestly, they grow so fast. It's just so much easier to start with a new plant every year without any disease. Other words sometimes you see with tomatoes are dwarf and semi-indeterminate. In my experience, dwarf tomatoes, they live up to their names and they get to the size that they claim they're going to get to on the packet. Whereas semi-indeterminate is just a lie. It's just an indeterminate tomato that grows just crazily densely. One of them took out one of my welded tomato cages, and these things were just crazy strong. 11 is latitude matters. So growing onions and shallots, you have to be really careful about getting the right one for your latitude. So onion and shallots are really susceptible to day length, meaning they bulb up when the day hits a certain amount of daylight hours. So with that day length really changes drastically in the summertime, depending on how far or north you are in the country. So you have to be really sure to get this right. Here by San Francisco, we grow short day length onions and shallots, whereas intermediate and long day length are much better for farther north. Sometimes I fall in the latitude of giving intermediate onion, and I'll give it a go, but they just never work. I get tandy bulbs, and they just don't last. Corn is number 12, and corn is crazy. Corn is an abomination and delicious. First abomination. All I mean is corn can't reproduce without human intervention. It has been bred for almost 10,000 years, and it looks nothing at all like the original cereal crop it was bred from. Because of the tight wrapping of the husks on the cobs that we have bred into it, the kernels would rot before it could ever reseed themselves naturally, hence the abomination. But anyways, there are four main types of corn. There's flint, dent, popcorn, and sweet. Dent is the corn that's grown the most in the US. It's about 99% of the total. This is what you get your cornmeal, your ethanol, and your animal feed from. Flint is really similar to dent, but it has a little bit of a harder kernel, and it can take a lot more cold, but it's really rare in cultivation. You can find it, though, in all of these seed catalogs, and it comes in just some amazing colors like neon orange to blue to black, and it makes a great cornmeal as well. Popcorn is just like the tiniest sliver of the production, less than 1%, but there are some really fun colored ones out there. Sweet corn is the one you buy at the grocery store, and it accounts for about 1% of the US production. And this is a group where it gets very complicated because it has been just hybridized into 4 distinct groups. You have super sweet, synergistic, normal sugary, and sugary enhanced. Super sweet is just the sweetest of the 4, but it must be isolated from the other 3 in order to get to the highest sweetness level. This also really limits its shelf life. The other 3 do not need to be isolated from each other. Normal sugary is just, it's more cold tolerant and vigorous, so it's better for an early planting or if you're going to plant it up north. Sugary enhanced is kind of similar to super sweet, but it's not as sweet, but that means it lasts a little longer in the fridge. Synergistic is kind of a hybrid between the 2, but I haven't grown it, so I'm honestly not sure what it tastes like. Wow, that's a lot of corn. We have just made corn so insanely complicated. Our last one, 13, let's talk about gynoecious and parthenocarpic. Yes, I swear that's English. First, gynoecious just means that the plant will only grow female flowers. What this means in practice is, so for every 10 or so of the gynoecious plants, you'll need to grow another pollinator plant, one that produces male flowers. You do want to check, though, with the catalog, that because a lot of these seed companies, they'll just compensate for this by making about 10% of the seed that they sell of that particular variety a pollinator or male. But not all companies do this, so you do need to read up. This is mostly a cucumber thing. Parthenocarpic is also a cucumber thing, but this also applies to tomatoes. What this means is the plant will produce fruit without pollination. This is really especially helpful in tomatoes if your nighttime temperatures are too low to set fruit like I have. So I highly recommend Oregon Spring from Territorial Seeds. Although beware, it doesn't really have the best disease resistance, so you'll really need to keep up on your and be proactive on your fungicides like sulfur and copper. In cucumber, parthenocarpic is usually paired with gynoecious, leaving you with plants where every flower becomes a seedless root when not exposed to any other cucumbers. It's just some really cool breeding. So go out there and peruse the seed catalogs, find something fun to grow this year. Also, a bonus tip, avoid high tunnels and greenhouse varieties. This mostly pertains to Johnny's, but like these varieties, they're not for you. They're for farmers in like very controlled environments. So go out there, get your hands dirty. I'm Garner Koo, Nacho and Freya. Bye.